Hello and welcome to the program Sula's Big Adventures with me, Sula. I'm coming to you today from Gros Morne National Park in Newfoundland, Canada. This park was founded in 1973 to protect some special ecological features like boreal forest and Arctic alpine barrens. And also there's a place here where you can see the Earth's mantle at the Tablelands trail, which we'll take tomorrow. This park is 446,000 acres or 1,800 square kilometers, and it's beautiful. It's bordered on one side by the Gulf of St. Lawrence and on the other side by the Atlantic Ocean. I tried to do some stargazing there, but while Newfoundland is a spectacular place with very clean, unpolluted air and dark skies, it receives about 47 to 67 inches of rain per year, which is about 1,100 to 1,700 millimeters a year, which is a lot. In San Francisco, we get about 10 inches of rain per year. So I took my 15 by 70 binoculars, but I only had one good night of stargazing, which was nice. Mostly we went to Newfoundland to visit Gros Morne National Park. And we took a side trip to Choix National Park and Meadows National Park, way up in the northern part of Newfoundland, where the weather is even worse. But what a fascinating, stupendous place to visit. We flew into Deer Lake, Canada. It's the airport that's closest to Gros Morne National Park. It took all day to get there from California, going coast to coast and stopping in Montreal along the way. So we just stayed at the Horizon Hotel, and then we started our journey the next morning. Then we drove about an hour to Gros Morne National Park entrance. This park was established in 1973, and it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site because of its geological significance and beauty. The Tablelands Trail there is one of the few places in the world where you can walk on the Earth's mantle. This was caused by plate tectonics, where one plate slammed into another plate, causing the mantle to become exposed. The upper mantle is composed of peridotite, which when exposed to groundwater cracks, and the calcium is carried away by the water, and the rock is metamorphosed into serpentinite, which swells and seals the cracks, but when it breaks open, it reveals the snakeskin appearance, which is why it's called serpentinite. The Tablelands Trail is a beautiful trail containing a complete sequence of rocks from the crust to the mantle. Today I'm on the Tablelands Trail, one of the few places in the world where you can walk on the Earth's mantle. This was caused by plate tectonics. Later, a glacier moved through here, making this beautiful valley where we can walk on the Earth's mantle. We hiked the Eastern Point Trail and to a dilapidated lighthouse that looked like a pylon at the Old Man Cove, and it passes a 450 million year old haystack. Then we checked into our lodging at Middlebrook in Glen Burnie at the Middlebrook Chalet.
We can't have no squirrel pie because that squirrel we saw today was rabid, but we did get some possum, so we got possum pie. Get on in here.
Right outside the door is a trail to a 3-tiered waterfall, but it was getting dark. After dinner, I did my only stargazing of the trip, and it was pretty nice. I saw a lot of things. These cabins are great, except for all of these night lights. My goodness, I have to find some objects to block these lights. If it weren't for that, it's pretty dark out here, except the moon is waxing gibbous, but I can see a lot of stars. And there is Delta. The next day, we hiked the gorgeous Green Gardens Trail, 6 miles round trip with a 2,000-foot elevation gain, all at the end. It ends at the Gulf of St. Lawrence, passing many raspberry bushes along the way, where I ate a lot of raspberries. The next day, we checked out of our nice chalet at Middlebrook and we went to the Discovery Center, which has exhibits about the Canadian geologist John Tuzo Wilson, who made important contributions to the study of plate tectonics. And it also told about the geologic story written in the rocks at Gros Morne National Park. Behind the Discovery Center is a fabulous fairy-like trail up over a bog with gorgeous views back to Trout Lake and Tablelands and beyond. Most of the trail is on boardwalk and the views are stunning. This was probably my favorite trail in Gros Morne National Park. We saw a huge bull moose there with a giant rack, and it ran along a ridge. We also saw about 4 red foxes. After this incredible hike, we then drove to the Trout River for a late afternoon hike to the gorgeous Trout River Pond. It was 9 miles round trip with an 1,100-foot elevation gain. The first 2 miles were so-so, but the end was spectacular. But it was going to get dark soon, so we had to march to get back to our car before it got completely dark. Then we drove to Norris Point and we checked into a beautiful Airbnb called Exposure that looked out into the harbor. At first we mistook this rundown, dilapidated white shack with 2 weird people in the basement that we thought was going to be our lodging and we would have to share it with them. I was relieved to find out that was not where we were staying. It was just next door. The next day, we had reserved tickets to take a boat ride to the incredible western Brook Pond, a freshwater fjord formed by dozens of glaciers that have carved a U-shaped valley. But when we got up, it was cloudy and foggy and rainy. Newfoundlanders call lakes ponds, but this thing is huge. It's 14 kilometers long. We went anyway, despite the poor conditions, and we walked 2 miles along a bog to the boat harbor. And after waiting about 30 minutes or so, the skipper said that it was gonna clear a little bit and we could go. The pond, or lake, is sandwiched between towering 2,100-foot or 600-meter high magnificent cliffs. The fog did begin to lift, and we could see multiple waterfalls, rock falls, and diabase dikes. These dikes are vertical or angled intrusions within the billion-year-old gneiss cliffs. And magma from deep within the earth, and evidence of the supercontinent breaking up over 570 million years ago. The surrounding mountains are the Long Range Mountains. They are the most northern section of the Appalachian Mountains. It's hard to believe. After the glaciers receded, the fjord rebounded and it was cut off from the ocean. So it's not a true fjord since it's fresh water and it's fed only by the waterfalls, and the water is pristine. One of the many waterfalls there is called Pissing Mare Falls, the highest in eastern North America at 1,150 feet.
Anchored onto the facing felt, it is not guaranteed to hold the weight. So it's a little bit too dangerous. Now the second reason...
Who's got him? Price.
Dock we left to this small dock still here on the left-hand side of the boat. Lava up through these air rock faces, and it poured out through the wind points, running down over, filling in the crevices, acting like a natural concrete contact.
After our fabulous boat ride, where one of the guides regaled us with song, we walked back along the bog and we saw Canada jay, boreal chickadees, and some ducks and many American toads, which sadly were introduced to Newfoundland, along with the moose. 2 moose were brought to Newfoundland in, I think, 1907 in order to provide food for Newfoundlanders. But it grew into 100,000 moose today. After our stunning boat ride, we stopped on the Gulf of St. Lawrence at the Green Point. This is a rocky outcropping of shale, and it's full of 500,000-year-old fossils of conodons and graphophiles.
Definitely, well, I think it is, because
the next day, we hiked Baker Brook Falls Trail. It's mostly on a boardwalk through a fairyland bog full of raspberries and bunchberries and ferns and wildflowers and black spruce and balsam fir and larch to a beautiful waterfall. Unfortunately, the trail ends abruptly at a small bench where everyone wants to take a photo and have lunch. It was way too crowded. And we were being devoured by no-see-ums. These are very small insects that go for your neck and behind your ears, and the bites are vicious. The next day was our day to conquer the imposing Gros Morne Mountain. This trail is 11 miles long and climbs 3,000 feet to the summit. It's a very difficult trail because you must clamber over 2 miles of rocks, big rocks, to get to the summit. The summit is windswept and cold, but after the summit, you're treated to sweeping, jaw-dropping views of the surrounding ponds and the beautiful Gulf of St. Lawrence. After that, the descent is again over loose rocks and roots, and it's treacherous. But we made it back. The next day, we checked out of our lovely lodging at the exposure and stopped at the Treasure Box in Rocky Harbor, a must-stop for homemade baked apple tart and delicious partridge berry pie. And then we started our long drive north along Highway 430, stopping at the wreckage of the SSFE, I think 1911, Arches Provincial Park to see arched rocks on the beach, many ruddy turnstones, and then we walked to the quaint Ponds River walking trail, 2 miles, and then we stopped at Choix National Park, which was incredibly windy, but where archaeologists have uncovered burial grounds of ancient people that lived there that they call the Paleo Eskimos. They lived there 5,000 years ago, and they hunted harp seals. And there's a large burial ground marked there where the maritime archaic people were buried, along with valuables and ochre. We stopped at the lighthouse at Point Ritchie, which again was very windy, but where there are dozens of depressions where the archaic people lived. We saw about a dozen caribou there. Then we walked along Phillips Gardens Trail to a hunting camp at the beach.
Well, I could park where this car is blocking the parking spaces.
And then we proceeded another 2.5 hours to St. Anthony's, where we stayed at the Viking Lodge, which none of us liked very much. The next morning it was raining, but we went to our intended destination, the L'Anse Meadows National Park, another World Heritage Site, where archaeologists have uncovered evidence of a Norse or Viking settlement dating to 1000 AD, or 500 years before Christopher Columbus stumbled onto North America. There are multiple sites where the Vikings or Norse built structures for cooking, welding, and habitation. There's no evidence that Leif Erikson was there, but there are artifacts that are displayed in the visitor center proving that there was a Norse settlement there. We took a short hiking trail at L'Anse Meadows along a very pretty rocky coastline with views of Belle Isle and some other islands, and lots of reindeer lichen and bunchberry. And then we drove back the long drive south to Rocky Harbor, where we had a delicious meal of fresh lobster rolls at the Buoy and Arrow. This is a First Peoples owned restaurant. It's owned by the Micmac people. We stayed one night at Rocky Harbor at the Gros Morne Suites, which was a nice lodging. And the next morning we walked along Lobster Cove before saying our goodbyes and heading back home. The stargazing was very limited due to the rain, but my goodness, what an incredibly beautiful place. Newfoundlanders are very nice people. They have this quaint way of addressing you by saying, "Yes, my love," or "Yes, my pet." It's very sweet. And Newfoundland was staggeringly beautiful. I highly recommend a trip to Gros Morne National Park in Newfoundland, Canada.